this past week, the Senate's been working overtime, even throughout the weekend, and they're very much involved in discussing medical care. It's assumed that they may even be voting on Christmas Eve. This is a very, very important subject. It involves all Americans, and yet I see that this debate sometimes is just on the margin. The government's already been involved in medical care for a long time. They probably participate in about 60 or 65% of everybody getting medical care already. So the argument there is, what's it going to increase to? We know we're not going to get total socialized medicine, and yet there's going to be more government involvement and maybe an undermining of the medical savings account. So it is very, very important, but the debate is how much more government are we going to have? And the real debate on whether the government should even be involved or not isn't even brought up. But even though that got almost all the attention over the weekend and it's going to continue to be in the news, I think there are some other very important things going on around the world involving our foreign policy. Just recently we heard about the skirmish on the border between Iran and Iraq over an oil well. A total of 11 Iranians were said to have gone into the Iraqi area. Even though this well is right on the border, it happens both ways. The Iraqis go in, they occupy the well for a while, then the Iranians go in and they occupy it. But I don't think this is all an accident right now, because since we went into Iraq, the government of Iraq and Iran are much closer together. They're all Shiites now, and I think it's in the interest of the neocons to stir up trouble between the Iraqi government and the Iranian government, and if they can find something like this, I think they will encourage it. And it is clear, the American government has already said they strongly endorse what the Iraqi government is doing in order to confront the Iranians. Of course, there is no such thing as the Iraqi government. We are the Iraqi government, so everything that happens there is our responsibility. Just as it is with what's going on in Yemen. The more we stir up trouble there, the so-called enemies of America, those who would like to get us off their land, they move around. They move from Afghanistan over into Pakistan. Then we have to go and start bombing Pakistan. But they also have moved to Yemen. So our puppet government, the Saudis, started bombing, and it is understood that some of our cruise missiles were also used, or our Predators were used to do some bombing too, killing civilians and just stirring up even more trouble. So the principle of preventive war is alive and well, and the war is spreading. It's going into Pakistan, now it's going into Yemen. The border dispute between the Iranians and the Iraqis is designed, I believe, to make sure that the American people are conditioned that someday we are going to have to take on the Iranian government. We have to have regime change is our policy. Just last week we had this major vote on putting tough sanctions on the Iranians, where they could not even import gasoline, not even another country. The theory behind these sanctions is that even if a country like China does any dealings in exports refined fuel into Iran, that we have to put, we have to deal and punish the Chinese, which is foolhardy. It's not going to work. It causes more trouble. So we have border disputes. We have the sanctions that we have put on, and it looks like we are determined to stir up trouble there. Not only do we accuse the Iranians that someday they might have a nuclear weapon, we ignore the fact that our CIA says that they have no concrete evidence that they have worked on a bomb since 2003. Also, just this last week, it was said that the Iranians are working on a trigger mechanism for a nuclear weapon. The odds of our national security being threatened by the government of Iran it's just preposterous, because it's a country, it's a third world country. They can't even survive without importing their gasoline. They don't have an Army, Air Force, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and they don't have a nuclear weapon, and yet we nearly get hysterical about this. And besides, where are we going to get all this money to expand our presence in the Middle East? We just passed a budget, military budget of $636 billion. Well, that's the budget for the military that we can see and touch, but there's many other hundreds of billions of dollars involved in our national defense. And it is estimated that we spend well over $1 trillion a year maintaining our empire. So there's the economic consequences, and there's also the threat to our national security by spreading ourselves too thin. And it seems like there's no backing off. At the present time, this concentration on medical care, although I grant you, is very, very important. I think what's going on over in the Middle East has much more serious consequences, not only to our financial situation, but to us as a nation and for our national security. So my intent is to continue to pursue the policies of sound fiscal policy, of living within our means, getting the government out of our lives and out of the economy, and of course, coming up with a sensible foreign policy where we don't just go looking for trouble. And right now, it seems like those who promote the war propaganda and trying to condition the American people to be prepared for the bombing of Iran or some other incident, they're just begging and pleading for the incident that will rally the American people so that they can support going into Iran. Hopefully, we will wake up before that happens.